We've got some fresh new young talent doing some things that I know you haven't heard before.
1, 2, 3, listen.
You got to have the why, and we know our why. So
You don't need to reinvent the wheel.
Yeah.
Millions and millions of people have done this already. You can get help, you can get a roadmap, you can save a lot of time, money, and frustration. Welcome to the Value Add Podcast with K&K. Hi everyone, welcome to the Value Add Podcast with Crystal and Kenny. Today
Howdy.
we have Kyle Hanson here. So Kyle actually started out, I met Kyle from being our IT person. He helped fix our computers.
Mission Hills.
When we had our office a long time ago in Mission Hills. Yeah. And then he left that company, opened his own IT company, still helped us with all our stuff as we were growing. It was like more and more problems all the time. And then he recently sold his company and is now kind of like transitioning into other business that you've been really passionate about. Mm-hmm. So we kind of just wanted to bring Kyle in today to kind of talk about, the internet and some of this like Google ads and things and how that's changing the industry or how you can use it to advertise your business. So thanks for coming on, Kyle.
Thanks. Yeah, this is cool, guys.
Yeah.
I love it.
So Kyle, I think for me is, we've known each other for 10 years.
Pretty
so
close.
It's been a while.
You're working for somebody and then you started your own gig. And I just always remember when you were going through that transition, the conversations, because Crystal and I were started our own businesses. So a lot of the chatter changed from I work for somebody now, I have employees and this headache and that headache and all that. But what kind of fascinated me just in the last couple of years is when you kind of told me about just doing Google AdWords and because for me is for somebody to go and learn just something any to do with technology or marketing and stuff.
Yeah.
I know if you just spent an hour or two on it, it could be brain damage, but I can't imagine the amount of time, energy, money, and resources that just went into learning just about Google AdWords. And I know that was one of the big reasons that probably just because you went in and spent all that time in that might have actually kind of transitioned your career, or just your passions.
That was the reason, I think. Because I only started that company less than 5 years ago, right? That San Diego Computer Help. So went from nobody could find me, no one knows who I was except for some people that I knew, right? Mm-hmm. To being right now, if you type in any search term computer repair San Diego, my site still, even though I haven't touched it in probably 6 months now, shows up #1 nationwide.
Nationwide.
Yeah. So that was
shit.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that. I thought it was just locally.
If you
which
type
is
in
crazy.
computer repair New York, obviously you get somebody in New York, but computer repair San Diego, I dominate that. The only people who I compete against and they consistently get me are Yelp. And that's a whole different deal, right?
Yeah. That's
but even within Yelp, I show up within Yelp. So if you get to that page, you see me, I have 5 stars and everything else. That was hundreds, maybe thousands of hours, worth of work after work, and to the point where I just get these sideways glances from my wife because I'm working all day. I come home, I'm learning about SEO and AdWords, and I've always kind of been involved in it, but I get obsessed over something, and that's all I think about. And that's kind of what led me to where I am now.
It kind of became a side, it was you had the IT business, but then you're I need to market it, and that started becoming a side hustle just to do that.
I will say though, I didn't want to pay the money to have somebody do it because in your head you can't afford anything, right? No matter how much money you're making, you're always man, I could pay this guy, but then that's $3,000 or $1,000 a month that I'm not getting. Yeah. So instead, kind of foolishly, I'm glad I did it personally because this is what I want to do.
But when you're startup, you got to do that though.
Yeah.
Right? That's just how
but
you wear all the hats. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I spent. If you think about it, the trade-off, other than the fact that it changed my career, wasn't worth it, right? Because if I spent 1,000 hours, what do I bill, per hour?
Right.
To save, if I did 100 hours a month to save $3,000 a month, it's not good math.
Yeah.
I'm glad I did it personally, but for most business owners, it really doesn't make sense to unless you want to become an SEO and a digital marketing person. So
Yeah, that's crazy.
And even though the numbers don't pan out, was it always kind of a passion of yours? Like it was always a curiosity, at least.
It's so weird because here I am almost 40.
Me too.
It's gross. It's gross.
It's crazy.
But I'm almost 40, and I'm like,
we're almost 30 when we met.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy.
And this is what I was on my way to do, like from when I was 19. Like I worked at a commercial finance company, and we were cold calling, like out of the yellow pages. Like this is a true story. I was cold calling out of the yellow pages and out of the white pages on September 11th, 2001 to New York. And I was not allowed, I was a kid, was not allowed to stop calling. Asked my sales manager, like, hey, can we call somewhere else? And my sales manager, this Australian guy, he's like, if anybody needs equipment right now, it's these guys.
Oh my God.
That is ridiculous.
I swear, I could probably do a whole hour just on this company.
Wow.
Right?
Holy smokers.
Yeah, no one wants to do that. So
That's
I started
sick.
figuring out how to do marketing, and back then I did email marketing, which kind of became faux pas, and blast fax marketing, which is also not great. It makes you sound like a scumbag now, but back then that's what it was.
That was marketing then.
Beats cold calling, and there was no, there's a little tiny bit of SEO and junk like that. But yeah, so that's what I did, and I ended up becoming at 19 director of marketing for this commercial finance company. So I've always kind of been passionate in it, but for whatever reason I kind of fell out, or I wanted to do something else. I started a band, and that was my job for a while. And I look back on it now, and I go, I just like marketing something. I just like marketing and branding a band. I wasn't a passionate singer. Yeah, actually, I wasn't even a good singer. But it didn't matter because I liked
You didn't
performing.
care what it was. You just liked the marketing.
I like doing something and seeing crowds come.
Yeah. Okay. I see.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, one of the things is what I thought was cool is because when people are doing marketing, I mean, I know we're going to get more into questions about companies, but like Crystal here, she's nervous to spend $1 because you're like, if I spend $1, am I going to make the dollar back? Just make the dollar back. But if I spend $1, am I going to make $2? And so
maybe.
Exactly. Right. So when the company that bought you, I know one of the things you told me, which is crazy, is that you spent all this time and effort, but they probably had more money, more resources, more time doing it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Just over a period, but you somehow figured out, I don't know if it's a hack or a way, or just because you just really dug down and spent a lot of time and sweat equity, you were able to spend, I don't know what it was, 40% less and get better results. Was it something like that?
Yeah. So as far as AdWords and that goes, the quality of your ads, the quality of the copy, the quality of the landing page, the quality of the keywords, the click-through ratio, all of these things Google judges, because what they don't want is they don't want shitty ads, right? Because if your ads are bad, then nobody clicks on them. Then they go to, well, they probably wouldn't go to Bing because it's Bing, but they'd find another one, or another one would pop up, right?
It's like real estate, right?
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. So that's it. So they're like, everything has to be high quality. If somebody searches for pizza downtown, I better see only pizza stuff that I want. And the better the results are, the more people stay with Google. That's why you go to Google. That's why you don't use any of the other ones, because it consistently gives you good results, right?
Okay.
So same with ads. They want the best ads possible. So how they incentivize advertisers is they say, the better your ads are, the cheaper per click it is. So there's this bidding system, and people bid on ads. And it's not just about the price. There are what would you call them, modifiers, that say Kenny's click is going to be 75% less, or 25% less than somebody else's because his quality's better. So all of those things create better leads and better ads. So I had better ads, I had better ad copy, I had better landing pages, and so every click for me was cheaper, even if I would show up above somebody else. Wow. And so that was kind of a formula.
So that's how you can move up in the ranks, is just improving the quality of your ads.
Yeah. So if for cheaper, yeah.
Right.
I mean, you could have the worst ads possible as long as they qualify, and the worst landing page and everything else, and just pay more, and eventually you could win. But at the end of the day, as a business person, you want to pay
As little as
$4
possible.
per click instead of $10 per click.
Right.
Right. So that's kind of where all that work comes in, and it's always a refining process. You never just get it right away.
It's not like you figure it out and then you just leave it alone after that either.
It's always different. It's always a moving target, and even if I were to build out your campaign perfectly in commercial finance, right? I'd go somewhere else to somebody who does the exact same thing, and there are lots of things that you have to reinvent anyway. I couldn't just carbon copy it if I wanted to.
Because there's different things, different businesses, or different aspects about the business or things
like that. And now, for instance, let's say they're competing against you, so you have this awesome campaign, so their stuff's going to be harder to beat you and harder to outspend you. So,
Got it.
Yeah, it's always moving.
I know this could probably be a tough answer to quickly answer, but what's because a lot of people, they're starting out, you're a small business, we've been there, you've been there, and for example, Crystal, obviously we're hiring you to do this for Social Capital, and they don't have the money, they can't spend the money, they don't have it, all they have is time. They have, they might be smart, they understand the internet, they understand the power of marketing. Is what is the process quickly that you kind of went through to teach yourself, and then how much time do you think it would take somebody that is from scratch, time, money, effort, to probably get to a point where maybe they're not going to be as good as you, but maybe they're hey,
to do it okay,
where you're I can spend $1 and I'm getting to the point where I should be able to start getting some audience and getting some feedback and like that.
So if we're just talking about, the easiest way for a company, and I kind of just I have these kind of conversations with starting out companies a lot. So we don't have a lot of money, or maybe down the road we want to use you, but for now, what advice can you give? So I think for most of those, say a plumbing company, Google Ads is probably the easiest way to go, because you're getting people who are I have an intention, I need this service. It's not a passive thing hey, get your house painted later, or something you can do this summer. If somebody has a plumbing issue or a computer issue, they need it.
Okay,
so
I see.
Best way to get them is when they're reaching out, because they're need is what it is. If you get passive Facebook ads for emergency plumbing services, you're not going to remember.
So that's how you view it. So you view it Google is I need, and Facebook could be just keeps looping and saying hi to Kyle, and you might need a mortgage.
Or they inspire you, right? Okay. Get these shoes. That's a Facebook ad, right?
Okay.
It could be both. Way to look at it. Okay. Build this add-on to your house. It's not something where you you need it right now and you want to check it off your list necessarily.
Google is instant, plumber near me.
Yeah.
My car broke. My computer crashed.
You have the idea already. Okay. And Facebook, among other things, and a lot of this kind of mishmashes together, but Facebook will inspire you to do something. Go take a vacation this summer. Sure. Go do that. Right. So Google Ads are the best bet, for a business that's just starting out. Even though business owners hate Yelp, me included, Yelp could be good too, but if you have 0 stars and 0 reviews, you don't want to pay to advertise that on a mountaintop. Hey, no one's reviewed me. You don't know what you're getting, right?
Right.
So, you have to, and I tried that. I have tried everything. Even if I thought it was a bad idea, I wasted tons of money on Yelp, because, the guy at Yelp was hey, if you advertise on Yelp, you'll get more reviews. And I knew that was kind of bullshit, but I was
always say that, yeah.
Yeah, but I was you know what? I'll throw some money at it and see what happens. Maybe he's right. And sure enough, he wasn't, and I broke my contract because he kind of lied about it. So I don't know if we have to edit that out and post or something. Everyone does it. It's a cool thing these days. But anyway, so so I would say Google Ads. Okay. They can start off honestly doing what's called it used to be called AdWords Express. I think it's Google Ads Express. The problem with that is that Google controls everything. You have no control over it.
Okay, that's the one where they control. Okay.
Yeah, and so you're just kind of this is my website, and this is what I do, and they're all right, cool, we'll pick it all out, right? So Google makes money if they get clicks, so they're not incentivized to create the best system possible. So there's lots of wasted money there, but you could start that up tomorrow and have ads.
I think I found that through the Google business pages that you create. They're hey, we'll give you some free ads. So they kind of entice you. You can put some little pictures on there or something, and then it's just a basic ad.
And it's not terrible, right? You could.
It gives you a little bit of presence.
Yeah.
But
and you could spend money and get leads, and it could become a positive ROI. It's not necessarily a waste of money entirely, but if you're serious about it and you're going to do this long term, it makes sense. You'll pay for it eventually.
Yeah.
You'll either pay in wasted ads, or you'll pay someone who can do it right and set you up with a campaign you could run forever. So
okay.
I hope that answered your question.
No. I mean, I think that, so it's just, and for you, did you start learning how to do this through like YouTube and Google, just watching videos, or you just start like reading and testing?
Everything. And I save every article that I ever read. And I have, I mean, it's so much. I probably have half the internet as far as advertising saved at some point throughout the years. Wow. And so if I see a headline, I don't have time to read it, I throw it into a category. And then when I'm done, I throw it into another category. And like I'll read and reread and reread. I read old stuff to see how it's different. Sometimes trends change, and they don't talk about some of the stuff that's still really important. So saving old articles where, you know, maybe something that's fundamental was new back then, everyone's excited about it, kind of helps me stay grounded as far as like, you know, not just following trends necessarily, but doing like the right thing, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it seems like too, once they're like reporting trends, you're kind of a little bit behind the 8 ball if you're just starting, right?
Yeah.
So you have to really be able to pick up on that, like do the research instead of waiting for somebody to write about it.
Yeah, and I always go back and do fundamental stuff. Like even when I was in sales, you know, you start off like, I don't know if it was like that for you, but for me it was like, you write this basic script out, right? I mean, and it's like, you look at it now and you're like, this is so dumb. Right?
Yeah.
Like, hello, you know, prospect.
Yeah.
You know, are you looking to acquire any equipment for your business? It sounds dumb.
Yeah.
But there's lots of really good things in there that as you become kind of this smooth salesperson that you leave behind, and you could be like the top of your game 1 month, and then you have 3 bad months. You're like, why am I doing so bad? Because you're forgetting these important things. Like whether it's something dumb like, you know, feel, felt, found type stuff, right? Like I understand how you feel. I've had other clients that felt the same way, but what they found is X, Y, and Z.
Yeah.
If you miss those things, you don't realize how important those are. So there have been times where I've gone back to my stupid script, I'd call it, and you know, it takes a lot to swallow your pride and just be like, hello, prospect, you know, how are you? You know, and just read the dumb script.
Yeah.
And you're like, how am I closing deals with this dumb thing? But there's something there.
Yeah. Oh, no, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Did you, I know you kind of touched on it, but are you focusing at all, like, are going to like Facebook and Instagram ads, and you know, I know some people are doing YouTube stuff. Are you just kind of like, is your main focus going to be more just Google ads? Or?
Well, to a degree, I kind of think I've been kind of mulling that over, and I kind of think my plan is to gather experts in each field. Rather than have kind of a jack, I mean, you can be a jack of all trades and have some good knowledge as far as, you know, X, Y, and Z. I haven't spent all my time in, you know, Facebook and Instagram ads and things like that. So I think the best thing to do would be to focus on what you're really good at. Make sure that you're attracting people who have those needs, and make sure that you put them in contact, whether it's somebody that I end up, you know, bringing on, you know, full-time or subcontracting out or having a partnership. Bringing experts in each field and doing it that way, because you know, I thought about it and I decided I don't want to do the shampoo and conditioner combo approach, because you kind of get shitty shampoo and shitty conditioner, and it's okay.
You rather just have the best shampoo and then find somebody that's the best conditioner.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense.
That's I mean,
and also,
I respect
those things
that.
are always shifting and changing,
Sure.
and there's different trends that you need to stay up on. So.
Yeah. And if I feel like I'm into, you know, I've gotten most of Google Ads down, and I need a new obsession, and I turn it up to 11 on, you know, Facebook and Instagram, and I feel like I can offer like the best quality product there, then I would maybe do that myself. But I feel like that there are people who could be a little bit better and just like immersed in it. And I want to make sure that you deliver the best thing. Even if you ask me, hey, Kyle, what about Facebook? I don't want to give you a subpar product.
No, and I mean, I think people should respect that, because there's a lot of companies that say, "Oh, we do everything."
Yeah.
Like, I mean, everything, and then
Yeah.
you realize they suck. You know, when I went to see Gary Vee in New York, he talked about that a lot. He goes, you know, he has you know, his team is built up of there's 7 analysts that just analyze data all
Yeah.
day. Then there's just people that are good at like getting influencers, and there's people that are good at Facebook ad, Instagram. So he was saying is, you hire these agencies and they're like, oh, we do everything. And he's like, bullshit.
Yeah.
They do one thing good and they do
Yeah.
the rest thing.
Yeah.
So they're good at one. Some of them are just good at video, and they're like, but we do the marketing, and they suck at marketing.
Yeah.
You're like, I'm not getting anywhere.
Yeah.
And so he was just saying, if you can afford it when you're a company, get a good Google ad, basically chop it up or just vend it out,
Yeah.
And I think that's the kind of thing like Crystal and I really were like, when you're like, okay, like you're just focusing on for her, you're doing the website, which you're building it because you got to do the Google ads because you're like, hey, this has got to work.
Yeah.
It's got to go hand in hand.
I don't want to do a sub-quality Google Ads
Exactly.
campaign because you're not going to get great results.
It's like, hey, we're going to take shitty photos of this model and we're going to go spend $100,000 on marketing your shampoo with a terrible picture. That's what you're basically saying.
If you flyered all of San Diego, like old school type marketing, if you flyered all of San Diego with, hey, check out our office, and then, people came and they got there and it was like sketchy and like someone was getting stabbed, then your marketing, doesn't matter how great your flyer is, it doesn't matter how much money you spend on like the actual, stock itself.
Yeah.
People are like, well, it's waste.
Yeah.
If they come to a place and their entire experience from A to Z is exactly what you tell them it's going to be, and it's nice and it's good, then those flyers pay for themselves. Same flyers at the end of the day, but different place where they land, and all of that matters.
Yeah. No, I mean, what's your so Crystal, obviously, you're hiring him for your stuff, but what is your advice to somebody that is going to go hire somebody? Let's just talk specifically then about
like what kind of things should they be looking for?
Google AdWords, because this is tough because there's a lot of people that do this.
Sure.
And also, too, there's like most of us that are just trying to get marketing for our business. We don't know this stuff. So you're kind of like, okay, how do you know if someone's the right fit or not? What kind of questions should you be asking?
This is tough because it's like, it's going to a mechanic. It's calling an IT guy. It's, it's doing marketing. It's doing things that is out of your scope. And you're like, is this guy really selling me horse shit, or is this guy really going to bring value? And the thing like we always talked about with IT is, one time we had to bring this guy in. I'm not going to mention his name. I think you were busy or whatever. And we brought this guy in. And I remember I got this bill.
Oh, the guy who was cheaper and you cheated on me? I remember that guy.
Yeah.
No, actually, it wasn't cheaper.
No?
So, and maybe I was still cheating, but it wasn't cheaper. That was a very expensive adultery moment.
Yeah. I think it's cheaper per hour.
They usually are.
I don't know. I don't
They
think he
usually
was.
do cost
I think like somebody referred and you were busy, and then I was like, let me. So
Yeah.
I remember the guy gives me a bill for $700 to fix the computer.
Yeah.
And I called him back and I said, $700? That doesn't make any sense. He goes, well, I had to learn how to fix the problem. So I'm like, wait a second. So you charged me 10 hours to learn it, and then basically we ended up like not paying him. Remember, we got in this whole thing. And I remember Kyle came into the office. I was like, wait a second here. I set a timer and Kyle did it in 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And then that's what we realized. We said, wait a second. This is a good story for a lot of people, because Kyle said, Kenny, the one thing about this stuff is I never charge a client to learn it. I can say, hey, I can fix it.
Yeah.
But hey, bro, I'm not going to have this back for a week because I've got to learn it, but I'm not going to charge you for it, but I can fix it.
Sure.
So if you want somebody to fix it now, you're going to have to find somebody who knows how to like screw this bottle on, but I don't know how. I got to go search it. So, and that's what I learned. I'm like, wait a second here. This is crazy. So for marketing, I feel like people are like, they go hire these places like, I got nothing out of the guy, suck this and that. So what should people know, or what should they ask for? Like, what's the,
well,
what do you think?
That's kind of a tough question because it is hard, right? I mean, for instance, you could have people that have case studies, right? That say, hey, client A, we did this, and they were spending this much, and then we got this much return or whatever. But at the end of the day, unless you can call the client and verify that, it's just text, right?
It's marketing.
It's marketing, right?
Yeah.
I mean, anybody right now could say, you could say, hey, I found somebody who blah, 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 and then I did this. And, it's just text. It's just marketing. So, I think at the end of the day, and maybe this is biased as to, like, what I do in my experience, but I wouldn't hire a mechanic who's never owned and fixed his own car, right?
Sure.
So, and there aren't a lot of marketers, so I might be just like, I just might be cutting out all of the digital marketers in there, or most of them. But, I learned this with my own money and my own business. And, every dollar that I wasted was painful. I mean, it hurt. So
How much money do you think you wasted, if you don't mind me?
Gosh.
Or just a real close to
Like over 50,000, I guarantee it.
Wow.
Over time. I remember my first day, because every day you waste money, no matter what.
I mean,
no
for
matter
a
how good you
startup, for your
And
business,
you can really, that's the other thing too I've always heard with Google Ads, is that you have to be really careful because you can lose a lot of money
You have to pay
doing the wrong ads.
attention.
And the
Yeah.
thing is, but your business, like, Crystal does a loan, you can make money with your business. It's like, it's kind of like, you're gonna fix something, but it's not. You're like, hey, I'm gonna make a $20,000 commission on your laptop.
No,
That's not how it
it's
works. So when you
too,
lose 50, it's like it's slaughter because it's your microtransactions.
Yeah,
huge.
here's kind of an amateur example of when I first officially got into it. So I've done this before. I had another company where I was selling motocross equipment online, and I know, random, huh? I just was like, you know what? I have this
You're right, you do like marketing.
Yeah, I do. I had this hookup, like this company where they were selling like knee braces and wrist braces and all that stuff, and a lot of motocross guys liked them. So I named this. I made this website just randomly. It's called Brace Yourself MX for motocross, and I had another
I like
called
that.
Brace Yourself. Right? It's pretty badass looking website for back in the day. I learned how to do shopping cart stuff on it. I started to like PHP code, not just a sales rep, but
That's awesome.
I wanted to build this company, And I could get these knee braces and wrist braces and some motocross stuff pretty cheap. So I was like, dude, I'll just sell it, And then I got this insurance hookup, and then I was selling it through. I talk about it now, it sounds crazy, but I was getting reimbursement from insurance companies because if you hurt your knee, it's an ACL brace, and you can like get it reimbursed.
Oh my!
So I was doing all this crazy stuff. I had no idea what I was doing. I had, I got my first like company debit card, and I'm just like taking all my friends to lunch and stuff. It's stupid, but
That's awesome.
yeah. But I did Google Ads then. I did pretty decent, just not even knowing what I was doing. But
Wow.
the second time when I decided I'm going to start my company, I'm going to hire technicians and all that stuff, I just did a test ad and I wrote it up and I did it and I got 2 phone calls. I was like, oh, sweet, this works. That's all the testing I need to do, right? It's awesome.
Oh, boy.
So I spent like $100 and I got like 2 phone calls. I'm like, yeah, I could reproduce that all day. 1 day's worth of testing. It was a fluke, right? So I hired 2 guys like an idiot. And I'm like, okay, cool. This is what I'll do.
Phones can start ringing.
Yep, $100 gave me 2 deals, then $200 gave me 1 deal. I did 1 day of testing. What else do I need to do? And so I hired these 2 guys. I'm like, okay, guys, you ready? Ready to get busy? And I spent $150, and nobody clicks, nobody calls, nobody nothing. And I just remember I went out to dinner that night with my wife, and I was just kind of like, I just felt like my face was in my stomach. Everything sunk. I was like, that's my only plan. That's all I had. I got these 2 guys. I did the next day and I didn't get anything. It's just a fluke I got those 2 calls. Wow. So then the next day I obsessively, like all day and all night, just learned everything I could and tried things and changed things. And it probably took me a full week of not doing tech work, not doing anything. You guys probably called me and I was just like, I'm gonna send somebody else out because I'm ready to jump off my balcony,
Wow.
And because that's all I had. And I didn't want to fire those guys. Because it's a dumb mistake. So instead I learned through it. And
so
I still
hustled and through it, and
it was inefficient. Still, for a year, I wasted. That's probably where I wasted most of my money. I still wasted, $100 probably every day, at least, if not more. Just sheer will and money and driving, pushing this thing. So it's painful.
And it's kind of like gambling too in the beginning when you don't know it. You're like, maybe if I keep throwing more money at it, like surely I'm gonna win one time.
It's like gambling for a lot of people still.
Yeah.
It is.
so it's just hard. I mean, somebody could sell you and say, hey, we're really good, and then you could you could go through a couple companies sometimes. It's just tough, huh?
I wouldn't sign a even though here's kind of the tough thing is advertising, whether it's print or digital or whatever, you don't just do it in a month for the most part and it works, right? I mean,
you got to give it some time.
6 months a year, right? I mean,
so
right?
yeah, so what I do is I'll ask for like a 6 month kind of like a informal commitment, because it's going to take that long. But I'm not going to lock anybody into a contract. Somebody locks you into a contract, I wouldn't do it.
Yeah, because it's like if you're not happy and the client's not happy, what are you doing together?
And if you're not getting results, if somebody doesn't ask you questions that can quantify return on investment, like for instance, like how much does a deal make you? How much does a deal cost you? What's your gross amount that a deal is? How many clicks or how many people do you think it would take? If you don't know these questions, then we figure them out as we go. But how many clicks would it take to create a lead, and how many leads would it take to create a closed deal? all those types of things are really important, because if you don't know that stuff, then you don't know, if I spend $1, how much am I getting out of it? You really shouldn't just kind of eyeball it. They should ask you tons of questions about your business and how much it costs and everything else.
So just kind of like the process you're going through. So somebody's like, "Oh, take your money and I'll figure it out." That's already you're in a bad direction.
It's a lot of work too. Like,
It
you
is.
definitely have to put the work in up front.
And a lot of people won't want to do that. A lot of people won't want to bug you to like say, "Hey, I need you to write some like decent ad copy." And you don't have to do that, but I want your ads to be great from the get-go.
And you're also trying to save people money.
Well, that's
really.
the whole idea.
Yeah.
I don't want you to. I mean, I'm not Google, so if you pay Google $10,000, like, I mean, number one, selfishly, it's not like I get that money anyway. But
right.
B, I'm supposed to be a steward of your money, and as a good steward, you need to pay the least amount of Google possible but get the most results.
Right.
Like that's how it should be.
So you really just have to kind of do the homework up front, make people do the hard work.
If people are willing.
Yeah.
And then it takes time. I mean, look at you. Yeah.
It does take time, and especially if you're not like a marketing person, again, because we are like a small business too. So
I love marketing, but I don't have the brain power or time. I won't spend the time to learn it. So
Sure.
it's just, but I love it because
I would never spend the time to learn it, but when
But
Kyle
you-
gives
but
me
you-
directions, I'm like, okay, this is my homework.
Yeah, and I always
You
feel
know?
bad because it's a lot, but that's
But
the
I
way
think
it should be.
But it's
Yeah.
exciting because I know for her, if I think if you listen to Kyle and do it and you start seeing results, you're like, wow, all this, it starts to pay, because it takes time,
So I guess that kind of like, so with companies, like some companies are killing it with Google ads.
Oh, yeah.
And other companies are like failing. What kinds of things make all the difference? Like, what's the difference?
Well, I mean, honestly, it does go back to what we talked about. It's taking the time in the beginning to understand return on investment.
Yep.
It's, I mean, you have to have the time as a business owner to do it.
You have
right?
to make the time.
Yeah.
I always say, though, if something's a priority, you make the time. We all have the time. It's just,
Well,
do
yeah.
you want to make it a priority or
Well, you
not?
say that, but a lot of people.
And when
don't
you're
follow that.
Yeah.
on that, it was another question I might as well throw it in here. Is what is the time? Like if you're doing this, you're like when you did it yourself and you have your startup, how much time when you were at your peak and successful, how much time once you get set up, how much time a week, a day, a month you're spending on this?
Okay. Once I got it up and running, like in, let's say year 2, I still spent, I don't know, probably 6 hours a week going
Okay,
through it.
so it's time.
Yeah, I mean, and that was, and I look back on it now, and I think, well, if I was gonna, if I could tell myself now, and if I still wasn't hiring anybody to do it, I should have probably spent more time, because I look back now, knowing like what I know now.
Is that broken
Well, you're
down
like if-
daily
I
too?
wasted money.
Like you got to.
If something's working for you, just go all in
Yeah.
with it, right?
So it's almost like
Yeah.
it's like almost at least an hour
You know
a
what?
day or more.
And I probably take that back, because I'm just kind of thinking about how much time I spent in AdWords analyzing, reports and changing things and changing bids and things like that. But I was probably on my website like every single day, changing something.
So it's like a
making an
part-time
ad.
little thing.
Oh, it was like a full-time job
Okay.
on top of my full-time job.
Well, and that's the
how
thing,
I
though,
treated it.
because most people make a website and they just don't look at it, like ours. I mean, I made a website and didn't look at it
Yeah.
for 10 years.
Yeah.
I updated an address, but that's about it.
And that's why, And I think
Yeah.
in the next half of that question is if Crystal's working with somebody like you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know you're doing all the legwork and this and that. How much time should she expect to give to you? So because if what she gives to you is also going to help her be successful too.
A
I'm
lot
guessing.
in the beginning.
Okay.
To do it, we'll call it like on a cheaper budget. If you say, hey Kyle, I don't care, money's no object. You do all the time and effort. I will research the industry until I'm an expert at it, which a lot of digital marketers do. For instance, if a moving company says, "Hey Kyle, I just want you to make a campaign," let's say I've never done it, I've never done a moving campaign. Doesn't mean that I can't become an expert in it fairly shortly, but you do lots of industry research on all your competitors, and you find out all the keywords and look at all the different moving websites and guys who are doing well. And you don't need to know, how to move something from A to B, but you need to understand the language and what works. And if that's the case, then you can spend more on a digital marketer. They can become the expert and still make great campaigns. But I know for us, we want to start kind of small and go into it. And so, I know it's a good experience for Crystal too to be able to have answers to these questions, because I know that you guys are.
Well, you learn about, like,
entrepreneurial.
I'm learning about my business too.
Yeah. And I know you guys appreciate that stuff. Just like computers, you guys are always the kind of clients and friends where I would say, like, this is what I'm doing and this is how I'm doing it. And it was interesting enough. some people are like, I don't even care. Shut up and just do it, right?
Yeah.
But I want you guys to be able to know like how it works.
Yeah.
Because you guys are empowered by that, and I like that.
Yeah.
So same with this digital marketing thing. I know that the type of relationship that we're going to have is like a partnership.
Yep.
And it's not going to be like Kyle does this thing and that's it. So I want you guys to learn.
If I can bring value in other ways, we're trying to, and vice versa. Because I think with marketing is collaborating in different strengths, and even like Monty's spending a lot of time we're learning about Facebook and Instagram and all that, so she can bring value in. So I think that's cool. But
it's a different type of relationship, honestly. And you guys are empowered by learning, and I like that.
So companies that are really winning is probably the people that are spending the time, that are doing the right ads, that basically are researching. So when they put an ad out, they did the right research to know that this ad should win because they put the time in.
Or they
not
have
just
somebody
throwing
that will do it.
10 things out there and throwing a bunch of money and nothing worked.
Yeah.
Because people do that.
Yeah.
They just get lazy.
And so if you throw enough money at something, I mean, it could work. It could.
That's scary.
Yeah. I mean,
this is what a lot of startups do. They have so much cash they burn because they just.
And sometimes you can spend through it and you can figure it out.
Well, and that's the difference too. Like we've talked about that, is like having an investor's money or having your own money.
Yeah.
Big difference.
Like, you got 50 million. Okay, we'll blow $1 million. See if we're up. Nope. Okay, we got to get serious.
Yeah.
Now, it's like.
And I'm not the best with money. Don't get me wrong. If my wife were sitting here, she could probably do a whole hour on how I spend money, foolishly.
Yeah.
But I grew up, single mom in an apartment complex. Furniture was like, we didn't buy it, we just found it somewhere and moved it in. So I kind of would rather, do the work to learn the thing, even if you're not doing it full time, right? Like you guys aren't going to become full-time digital marketers. But I appreciate that you guys like want to learn it. Because you'll ask better questions to me, and then I can give you better results, and we'll have better success.
I also think every business owner should know a little bit about everything in their company. So I don't need to be an expert at everything, but I need to be able to have like a pretty simple conversation about it and an understanding for it.
And that's the one thing Gary Vee said. If you're small, like obviously he's massive, but he goes, look, if you're small and starting out and your dollars are tight and you don't know about what you're doing and spending money, he goes, you're an idiot, basically. It's true, because if you're massive and you're saying, I'm bringing Kyle in that's an expert, like you don't have time, you have the money. But he says if you just lost 20 grand because you didn't know what that guy was doing, like and he left or got sick or hit by a truck, he's like, then you're back
and also at the end of the day, it's as a business owner, it's my decision who I hired, what they did, whether they performed or not. Like I made that decision. That's on me.
Yeah.
It can't be somebody else's fault if I didn't even care enough to know about it.
That's how people get. That's how companies get money embezzled from them. They're just like, oh yeah, there's a bookkeeper. They figure it out. Yeah. That's not what I do. Right?
She's got it.
Yeah. Which I'm guilty of. I'm not getting embezzled, but
right.
Without being like, that's my. I got lucky, but that's my bookkeeper. She'll figure it all out.
Yeah.
She's like, sign this check. Okay.
Because you're more like, I want to focus on the marketing or a couple things. That's why. So we want to do some rapid fire questions.
All right.
I think that I kind of put together. They're more IT. Or you get ready.
All right, here we go.
Crystal, why don't you rapid fire away?
Okay, so these are like quick, kind of like
they're more
super
IT,
short.
but I think I just wanted to know. I wanted to know.
So after owning a repair business, what's the most common issue you run into?
I would say lots of hard drive issues, and as far as in shop, probably screen issues, laptop.
Interesting.
Screens.
Okay.
For a computer repair
I thought it was
shop.
viruses.
That's
what I
okay.
thought.
Yeah. Well,
Viruses.
if you get people with antiviruses, then you don't get that issue anymore.
Okay.
I guess I always just let mine expire.
Oh
Okay. So if I were to buy a $500 laptop versus like a $1,500 laptop, is there really a difference?
Yeah, there can be. So there's kind of like sweet spot ranges, right? So like a $200 laptop isn't probably that much worse than like a $350 laptop.
Okay.
$500 laptop to $700 laptop, sometimes you can kind of get the same range.
Okay.
$1,000 and up is kind of a different thing.
Okay, it is. Okay. So
yeah,
there is.
it really depends. Although I would probably, if I had to choose, sorry, short answers, I'm not good at that.
It's okay.
$500 laptop, put a solid state drive in it, and it probably becomes a $1,000 laptop for $100.
And that's what we've kind of done with you with our desktops. Yep.
Okay, so that's like the hack on it.
Yeah, it is kind of like a little.
Guys, you just got a hack.
Yeah.
Hello.
So what's the biggest misconception about your industry?
IT.
Biggest misconception. Damn.
See, it's a good one.
I was gonna say that IT guys are rude, but they are rude and condescending. So that's a conception.
Everybody's stupid to them.
Just so you know, none of your guys were ever rude,
No, I hate
and
them.
neither were you.
I hate
Yeah,
IT guys.
ever.
I wanna know the truth.
You think they think like, oh, this guy's an idiot. You don't know this like.
Oh,
stuff.
I've let some good IT guys go the first week because they're condescending.
Okay.
You know.
So that's that. But you think that's what it is, like?
No, that's true.
Okay.
I would say, gosh, misconception. What is a big? I don't know, man.
I would say if you go to a mechanic shop, the big misconception is you're gonna get screwed. They're gonna like go, oh, you're here for an oil change. Well, you need to go. You need 12 things.
I got one computer repair shop. I know it one we get all the time. That the technician's gonna go through all your pictures.
Yeah,
I would imagine. Privacy. Oh my gosh.
That's awesome.
Okay,
man.
I would be worried about the
See,
people who
that's
say
good.
that because I would never have a
See,
worry
that's
about.
good.
I've like
There's
never
something
thought
There
about
are
that.
some sketch people.
Oh
Yeah.
my
Oh,
gosh.
you know is that kitty porn? On
Well,
there?
Oh
Like,
my gosh.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's
so they
the
do
crazy?
not go through.
What's the
That's pretty
craziest
awesome.
issue you ever had to deal with?
Craziest issue. Like, how about? Oh, I don't even want to say what the most disgusting issue is. That would be.
You can say whatever.
Well, that
I don't
sounds
care.
interesting.
I don't know. I might darken this podcast so
We could
much.
do both.
You guys, yeah. No.
You know,
Let's go dark and crazy.
It's like thinking.
Oh, all right.
I knew this one was gonna have to think about. Like,
This is terrible.
Did somebody actually look at pictures? Is that where we're going?
No. Yeah.
Videos. Oh no.
No, there was a guy who was very open about his porn collection, so much that he was like, that's all he would just like sit on the phone and talk about it with like, man, my young technicians, my young innocent little guys, right? And so I had to get on the phone with him and tell him like, you know, your weird never went out, man, you know. And the guy's an attorney, and so he's just kind of like kind of alluding to like if we are, you know, like a prejudice against this guy. Maybe we shouldn't go through all this in the video, but I'm gonna say it anyway, and we'll see what happens. But like if we don't like help him, you know, then we're
Oh my god! Of course, attorney.
yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna sue you for.
Yeah, and he was like on disability too, so he had lots of time, right? So I finally was like, I don't want to send any of my guys down there anymore because they were just complaining about how like weird it is. So I went down there to bring in this computer back, right? We had to do like data recovery on it.
It's getting good.
Yeah. So anyway, so I get to this guy's house, and guy's super weird, right? This is probably one of the things that was like, Kyle, you should sell your business, man.
This is good.
You're almost 40 years old, right? And anyway, so I get to this guy's house. He's like, go ahead and just put it right over there. And so I'm getting the computer and I'm looking for it. And then I realized exactly where his computer was because it was the only space where there wasn't like, what's it called? Mystery splatter. I don't lotion sitting on the desk and
OMG.
My
I was like
God.
looking for like hidden cameras.
Explicit on YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh
it's just
my
lotion.
gosh.
You know, who knows what it is. You know, he's got soft hands maybe or something.
Oh my God.
I'm sure they were well exfoliated.
Yeah.
That is.
And it was like
Francisco's over there
point,
like that won't come up.
the lowest point in my life. I told you, you guys asked. So so anyway, so he's just talking to me forever about this collection, and I was just kind of like,
That is weird.
it
dude.
sucks so bad.
You're like, I need to find a buyer.
I forgot what the
That's
question
terrible.
was, but I'm gonna
That's-
take a
that's
shower.
good.
That's the
No,
craziest issue ever.
That's crazy.
Craziest
Yes,
issue
that's
ever.
cool.
And we'll stop there.
Okay, one last thing. 1 or 2 things you got called for all the time that someone could have just Googled and fixed themselves.
Oh man,
Like just a simple thing. You're like, really? You want me, I can
half the things.
We probably do it all the time.
Yeah.
You
Let's
forgot
see.
I did
password?
viruses myself.
Oh.
I figured that
You
out.
forgot your password?
So this
Oh,
is,
that too.
Right.
yeah, that's one. This is kind of a sidestep answer to that one. Is we get this one a lot. Google every once in a while would change their little home screen to be like some other little thing, whether it's whatever. And when Google changed it to Pac-Man, I don't know if you guys remember that. But
Yes.
it's
Yeah,
Google and you
I
press
love
the button
that.
and it goes bloop 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 bloop
Yeah.
bloop. We got 3 calls in the same day. I have 2 voicemails from it. From people like, I don't know what's happening. I think my computer's got a virus. And you listen to it in the background. You're like, is that
That's
Pac-Man?
awesome.
So the first
That is
time I
awesome.
showed up at someone's place,
Oh.
it's because I was like, what is it, right? So I show up at someone's place. I'm like, oh, it's just a Pac-Man thing on Google. And then I looked at my next appointment, and it's like virus on a computer on their home screen. So I call them up, and I'm like, can you go ahead and can I hear or see what it is? Explain it to me. She's like, yeah, it's this thing. It's this yellow banana.
Oh
It's
my.
Pac-Man. Just go ahead and close it. So that's probably, I guess you can't really Google that if,
That's pretty
if Pac-Man's
funny.
going to eat
That's
your
pretty
words.
good.
That's awesome.
I like that. That's a good answer.
That's awesome.
to wrap it up, like what's next for you? What's next?
It's kind of interesting. So I decided I pretty much since you guys have met me, I've probably worked nonstop, constantly. That's all I think about. That's all I do. Blah blah blah, and I'm kind of restructuring. I don't know if this is great for an entrepreneurial podcast. Maybe it is, but I'm restructuring my life a bit so that I have some time. I'm in the process of adopting a 4-year-old.
That's right.
Actually, it should be 5 next month.
Yeah.
And
it's a good story. Next time.
Birthday party next time.
Yeah.
But
I want to tell the story. It's cool.
Yeah. So I want to make sure that that I have enough time for her, and that
smart. She needs it. Yeah.
She does. Yeah. And she if anybody deserves it, this little girl does. So I'm gonna structure my life so that I'm working a reasonable amount of time. Maybe 8 hours. Maybe 10 hours a day. Right. I mean, I wake up early, but that I have time for story time.
Like a 50-hour week instead of an 80-hour week.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's kind of my main thing, and I think that's gonna be really important for me.
That's cool.
Yeah, and it's gonna be all in digital marketing, which is what I should have been doing 20 years ago.
Yeah, that's your passion.
And I've been doing it. I just haven't been doing it professionally. I can't tell you how many projects I've started where I'm like, dude, if I just had the wisdom that I have now, I just shaved all my wisdom off of white hairs. But if I had that, I would have done that 20 years ago, and I would have been killing it.
That's what you would like. It's funny because you can answer this question. If you were today and went back to your 19-year-old self, you'd say, stick to digital marketing because you would have been
I would have been a monster.
But I think it's hard though because for you, you're like, I could sell anything.
You still can be a monster though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You're going to be a monster quick.
Well, I've learned so much along the way.
Which is awesome.
And you could literally sell anything though. Like you could be like, I want to sell motorcycle braces tomorrow, and like you could create like probably a ClickFunnels to like sell braces to people and then upsell them on another thing. Or that's really cool.
Well, thanks for coming in, Kyle.
Sure. Thanks for having me.
Cool.
Thanks, Kyle.
All right, guys.